healing doesn't always arrive as a breakthrough. Sometimes it shows up as a pause when we choose not to numb, not to react, not to abandon ourselves in discomfort. Emotional sobriety invites us into that pause. It asks us to stay present with what's real, even when it's tender. And that choice over time can quietly change everything. Welcome to Healing Horizons, a space for inclusive, honest conversations about growth, recovery, and many paths toward wholeness. I am Saima, and today I'm joined by Natalie Bedard, known as NatNat, an emotional healing and nervous system guide who helps people release protective patterns, regulate their emotional body, and return home to themselves. NatNat's work weaves trauma informed care with soul rooted integration, meeting people exactly where they are without bypassing pain. And today, we're exploring emotional sobriety, what it really means, how it supports healing, and why it's such a powerful foundation for sustainable well being. So, Nat, welcome to the show. I'm glad you joined.
Thank you so much for the beautiful introduction, Saima. I'm looking forward to this conversation, and I'm truly honored that I am in this space with yourself and your listeners. So let's dive deep.
Yes, you're warmly welcome, I'm really, it's amazing to have you here. So, Nat, before we define anything, I'd love to start here. When did emotional sobriety become something you leave, not just something you understood?
Well, emotional sobriety is in regards to many of us have done an a la carte with our emotions. So there's big emotions that we have suppressed and that we don't allow ourselves to fully feel the arc of our emotions. So within my own life, when I had the lesions in my brain and was told I was going to die, the only thing that I could do was allow my body to somatically release all the stuff that I had suppressed in my lifetime and start to interact with these emotions. And more in the interaction is allowing my curiosity to listen to the information that was coming up. So it was allowing myself to no longer just be from the neck up. It was learning to really learn to listen from the neck down and what my body was giving as information and wisdom.
Hmm. That makes sense. And the way you explain that is really remarkable, I would say. And I really like, how you're pointing to the leave aspect of this, that emotional sobriety I feel, isn't an idea you adopt, but something, we slowly learn to experience through paying attention and to yourself in real time. And that kind of learning takes, honestly, a lot of courage because it, asks us to stay present with what's actually happening inside us, not what we think is happening. And there's a depth and maturity in the way you describe that process, because I feel it really reframes emotional sobriety as a relationship with oneself rather than a destination, right? Now,
Correct.
when when people hear emotional sobriety, they often imagine emotional restraint or being unaffected. So, what's a misconception you see most often around this idea?
I think the misconception can be equated to like when people say meditation and that it'll make my brain stop thinking and I won't have my mind racing, where that's not what meditation is about. So, emotional sobriety isn't about apathy and not feeling any emotions. It's actually being curious and listening and allowing yourself to express them when they come up, allowing yourself to feel them as long as it's like safe in the environment, or if it's not safe, it's coming back to allow the body to express it and release it in a way of a somatic cleanse. So a lot of times, people want to have it all figured out. They want to have the performance. They want to be able to go through life and not feel any pain. And unfortunately, that's not what living is. That's not what the human experience is. A lot of people wanna bypass and go into the spiritual aspect, yet there's depth that they're missing in being able to interact with what is life presenting as experiences, as lessons. How can you become even more intimate with yourself? And the way that we become more intimate with ourselves is allowing ourselves to feel the depths of what the emotions are bringing us, what information. I think what people forget, though, is that emotions aren't our identity. A lot of people will say, I am angry or I am sad, rather than I am feeling sad. I am feeling angry. And I get messed up with that own language sometimes too. And I have to recorrect it with myself. So it adds a space that I remind myself this isn't my identity. This isn't the end all. It's just something that's passing through. It's like a big wave, a big tsunami of chemicals being dumped, of information that's being brought up. So, can I weather that storm and ground and anchor myself in my breath to be in presence and to listen to all the things that are coming up? And it's messy, it's uncomfortable, and it takes a practice because sometimes you're going to have to shut it down because of where you are, what you're experiencing, what you can tolerate at the moment. Yet, this is why it's a continual practice. There's no arrival in this.
I really appreciate how clearly you articulated that, Natnat. The way you describe emotions as information, rather than identity is so grounding. It takes a lot of wisdom to recognize that feelings can move through us without defining us. And what I really like is how you emphasize safety too, because that's such amazing piece in these conversations, I feel. And emotional sobriety isn't about shutting anything down, like you said it's about creating enough internal and external safety to actually feel what's arising, without being overtaken by it. And framing emotions as a way of, chemistry helps normalize the experience and reduce shame, like the way you explained that. And that perspective alone can be incredibly freeing for people listening. Now, let's stay with
Much. Yeah, very much. Go ahead.
now, as we're into this, from a nervous system perspective, I would say, where do emotional numbing or reactive patterns usually begin, and what are they trying to protect us from?
So the clients that I work with a lot are like high functioning. And the reason why they've become high functioning, and this can pertain to anybody. If we look back to our childhood, there were certain emotions that we were expressing, and the caretakers or the adults or anybody older than us told us that that emotion was inappropriate, that we shouldn't be feeling that. We'll use example as boys. Boys are told they shouldn't be crying. Boys don't cry, toughen up, suck it up, don't feel that, don't let other people see you cry. That's weakness. So, right there, that creates a belief system that whatever the body is expressing, it's the wrong emotion that goes with the environment. So then you start to disassociate and you start to not listen to what your body is trying to give you as information. And instead of the caretakers holding the space for you to better understand, well, why is there this emotion here? Many shut us down from that. And so we just created an armament and we created a distance from our sensitivity and our vulnerability. And because of that, then we go into the world with a belief that this is the way I have to navigate. And then when we become adults, then we wonder why there's emotional disconnection, why there's apathy, why can we not connect? Why is there not intimacy? Why am I feeling so overwhelmed, burnt out, fatigued, irritated, frustrated? Well, it's being able to look, are you able to be authentic with yourself? And authentic means, are you able to feel all the array of your emotions, not just doing an a la carte? So the work that I do with clients is letting them start to feel what are the signs and symptoms that are coming up in their body. For instance, I had a client this week where for him, it's in his ribs, and when he feels into his ribs, that's when all sorts of information come up, yet he continuously forgets to reach out for that, and then when we do our sessions and he reached out, he's like, "Yeah, there's all the information, but for some reason, I'm forgetting to do this more often and create it as a practice because there's so much information, and he could notice how his body and his energy shifted and just in that moment of connecting with his body, of listening to what was going on internally and allowing there to be a reframe in his perception towards himself and towards the environment, because many of us forget to add context to what we are experiencing. So that nervous system is always giving us information. It's just, it's the radar and it's the magnet. It's also recognizing, well, how are we treating ourselves internally? What belief systems have we created? And what emotions have we shunned and we are repulsed by because we were told they weren't healthy, they weren't the accurate. Like, for instance, anger gets such a bad rap, and anger is healthy. Like, it is an emotion that protects our vulnerability, our sensitivity, our fear. It also lets us know our moral compass of when things are not right. However, we've been told, nope, it's not there. The thing is that if we don't know how to interact and listen to anger, it hijacks our behavior. So what people are saying that is wrong is the behavior, not the emotion. Yet that's what they label it as, is that anger is wrong, where it's not the emotion of anger that's wrong. It's how can you be curious and listen to it without it hijacking your behavior so that you can offload what you're feeling.
Mhm. The way you explain that is really powerful and grounded, I must say, Natmat. And I really appreciate how you brought it back to childhood in such a compassionate way, like showing that emotional numbing or reactivity isn't a personal failure, but a learned response to being told directly or indirectly that our emotions weren't safe or welcome. And the way you described this disassociation and then connected it, to adult experiences like burnout and that deep sense of disconnection feels incredibly validating for so many people listening. And I especially love how you reframed anger not as something to suppress, but as a healthy signal, a kind of, like I said, a inner moral compass letting us know when something isn't right. And that perspective, honestly, alone can be so liberating. And the work you do, helping people listen to their symptoms instead of judging them, really restores trust between the body and the self.
Yes. Would you join me in a mindful moment right now so I can allow people to see the practicality of what they can engage in right now?
Yeah, sure. I would love to.
Okay. So I'll ask you and the listeners to get comfortable in their seating. And if it's safe to do so, I'm going to ask you to gently close your eyes or soften your gaze. And you're going to begin breathing in and out through your nose if it's comfortable. If not, then breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. What you're going to do is bring your attention into your breath and watching your breath go in and out. And you're not going to try and control your breath. You're just going to be aware of its rhythm, allowing it to guide you into your body. You're safe to feel. You're safe to let go. Surrender the need to control. Release the need to resist and just be. Be with your breath. Drop deeper into your body. Now, there may be some thoughts or noises that distracted you, and that's okay. Gently bring your awareness back to your breath, creating space between the awareness and the thoughts, and dropping deeper into the body, allowing yourself to just be. Again, more thoughts may have popped up. Gently bring your awareness back to your breath, beginning again, creating even more space between the awareness and the thoughts, and completely surrendering into the body, into the moment, into your breath. And whenever you notice that you've drifted off, bringing your awareness back to your breath, allowing your body to let go, to release, to feel some ease, some safety. and trusting in your breath. Now, wherever you are in your breathing cycle, I'm going to ask you to exhale. And now take a deep breath in through your nose and let it all go in an exhale. Take another deep breath in through your nose. Let it all go. Another deep breath in through your nose and gently exhale. Place your hand on your heart and take a moment to thank and give gratitude to your body, to your being, to your life force. Now, at your own time and at your own pace, you're going to gently open your eyes while staying with your breath.
Hmm. It really felt so grounding. I noticed my breath slow down and my body soften a bit, and it was so calming and supportive. Like I could sense a little more space inside, less tension and more presence.
And this is why I call it a mindful moment because these are the things that we can take for a moment. Say, for instance, you just got charged up in an argument with a coworker or a supervisor. You can take a moment to excuse yourself and say, I need to use the washroom and go into the stall and do this practice for yourself to release the charges and frustration and bring some space so that information can come up and that the emotions aren't being all entrenched and tangling and putting like a veil over your perception so that you can have more clarity and that you can advocate for yourself if there needs to be, or you can be into the silence because not every time that we have to defend ourselves with language, the silence can be there for us. So taking these mindful moments to allow ourselves to let the body release all those chemical releases, those energies that get built up through every interaction allows us to have that groundedness and allows our body to feel more safe that we are validating it, we are listening, we are taking care of it. And that's where trust builds. That's where your discernment starts to strengthen. That's where your intuition starts to have more clarity. And curiosity is unleashed so that you can better understand things in the uncertainty and the unknown, not just always being in the control and perceiving that you know everything, because that makes you feel safe. Whereas when you don't know and you allow curiosity, that's where change and growth is. And so being able to access these tools allows there to be a lot more space, like you said, a lot more ease, and that there's a lightness in how you're living life and how you're navigating in the world.
Absolutely, it felt so gentle and reassuring. And thank you for guiding that. It helped me feel more connected and steady.
You're welcome. These are the practices that I bring my clients in so that they can learn to do it on their own. Yet in our sessions, because of the tone of my voice and the co-regulation of my nervous system, they're able to go into depths within themselves because as it says in the scriptures, where two or more are gathered, I am there. So when we can co-regulate and meditate in groups and in more people, our nervous systems connect and there becomes a greater energy field. And that's where we become in the stillness. And that's where we can go into the space of nothing and everything and have a better understanding of how it is to navigate as a human, not just do the spiritual bypassing.
I'm sure that's going to be beneficial for all our listeners out there. So, Nat, for our listeners who feel deeply resonant with this conversation and want to explore your work further, where can they find you?
Liftoneself.com. So that's my website. It's liftoneself.com. They can book a clarity call, they can book a one-on-one session. I have the emotional sobriety workshop. I have some free resources on there. I also have a podcast that's called Lift Oneself, where I give practical tools, I give theory, I give everyday scenarios so that they can understand how to embody this work within themselves. I'm also on all the social media platforms under Lift Oneself. So if anything resonated, if you felt cold chills or it was like I was in your head, don't be afraid. Just reach out to me. I may have something that would be a benefit of you. So send me an email, go on the website, go on my platforms, and just DM me, reach out, connect with me. It's an honor to be able to share this work with others.
That's noteworthy. And lastly, what message would you like to share with our listeners?
Please remember to be kind and gentle with yourself. You matter. It's warrior work that you're doing.
Mm-hmm. That's a great and beautiful reminder, NatNat, again. And like, thank you for that reminder once more. That really lands, and it's something we all need to hear. Like, that's such an important note to end on. Kindness really is the foundation of all healing. Absolutely, yes. So I would really like to thank you, NatNat, for bringing such grounded compassion into the space. And to all our listeners, may this episode remind you that healing doesn't ask you to be present. It asks you to be on yourself and to be kinder. So this is Healing Horizons. Until next time, keep choosing honesty, gentleness, and hope as you move forward. And NatNat.